Now, this encounter I mentioned is like none other. Because when these people, these agents of darkness, as I would love to call them, captured these children, they demanded cash. And the federal government, this current federal government, had been very clear on the policy of no cash ransom. We are not going to empower criminals. We are not going to empower terrorists. The government intercepted communication between them and their families. And before you know it, our security forces have rounded up their families. And then they were communicated to. I believe it was a video communication saying, look, your wife just put to bed. It's not just the wife you want, even this newborn, which I suspect you are going to name Yusuf, you will not see him anymore.
Good day, Legend Jojo. How are you doing today? The federal government have rescued the kidnapped victims in Oyo State. News has been flying around the social media. Social influencers have said they've accused the government of staging the kidnaps. They said the victims don't even look like they've been in captivity for the months that they have been kidnapped. What's your take on this? What are your assessments on this?
My initial reaction, my very first reaction to this is instinctive, it's spontaneous, it's that of gratitude, it's that of relief. It's that of joy, genuine joy. The Yorubas will say, even if riders mount and race with horses in my belly now, they will have a very smooth, uninterrupted race. So I congratulate myself, because now I can finally, as a patriotic Nigerian, well-meaning Nigerian, that is always interested in the good and the best for the nation, I am happy, I'm excited, I'm joyful. I congratulate our security forces for their gallantry, their bravery. We take it for granted that they are those that take the watch at night, take the risk to approach this evil, are humans like us, flesh, blood, they can die. You know, there's nothing that guarantees a soldier. The camo is not immunity against death or even against injury. So these are fellow men that that has sworn the oath to protect the rest of us, even sometimes at the risk of their own lives. And there are many who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, even in their fight against banditry. I congratulate the president for the leadership, the master stroke strategic approach towards these very rescue efforts. The effort is peculiar in nature, which we will get to. For me, it may even be the first of its kind of this nature. I congratulate the victims themselves. That finally, after 56 days, 39 school children, 6 teachers, they have finally been taken off the snares of their captors. They have finally left captivity to encounter liberty. I saw from the first reaction of the teachers, and you could almost literally feel the emotions, that fresh breath that speaks that these people had gone through the most traumatic, agonizing experience, perhaps, of their lives. Those are the adults. Even the children that were taken, they were between the ages of 2 to 16, a 2-year-old child. You don't have to be a parent to be able to relate. If you are an uncle, if you are a child yourself, no matter how grown a fellow is, you are still someone's child. You can always imagine, because we're all baby ones, you can always imagine what a 2-year-old child must have gone through. And beyond that, what the parents that have been left in that state of uncertainty for 59 days, 56 days, how were they able to cope, the psychological stress. So it's, for me, it's a very, very delirious experience. Now, this encounter I mentioned is like none other. Because when these people, these agents of darkness, as I would love to call them, captured these children, they demanded cash. And the federal government, this current federal government, has been very clear on the policy of no cash ransom. We are not going to empower criminals. We are not going to empower terrorists. We are not going to sponsor their economic liberty by submitting to fear and allow them arrest our consciousness. This government was very clear. We are not paying cash ransom. They demanded it, the government refused. Then later, saying that the government was not ready to budge, they were not going to oblige to your threats. Then they changed it to swap deal. So, okay, we'll release these children, these victims, but you also will release the terrorists, our colleagues, our demonic colleagues in your custody. You also release them. So, victim for victim. We say no, you will not equate the life of an innocent Nigerian to that of a bloody, blood-sucking, life-taking demon. No, it's not equal. It's not equal. So they are used to, when they gaslight the government like that, or when they threaten the government not wanting to lose any innocent citizen, we quickly, in that agonizing state, or in that state of panic, submit to whatever their demands are. At least let us rescue our... And truly, no price is too steep. No price. There's no cost too high for the life of a Nigerian. But no. This government had other plans. And then they didn't know that, or like before, what the people wanted. That is why we must not elect leaders that are populists. Because a populist government would go into that forest. Because, believe it or not, we have always known where these people were. That is not in doubt. You could hear from the principal's testimony that when pressure was being mounted, they began to torture the male teachers amongst them, knowing that they were clear the government knew their location at the point. So a populist government will want to please the populace, and then it takes rash actions. Terrorists that do not entirely value lives, they will use those victims as human shield, and then they become collateral damage. If we eventually end up killing the terrorists in that gun battle, in that careless, reckless gun battle, but the victims for which you have encountered on that rescue effort, if they lose their lives in the process, then what is the point? Again, one terrorist life is not worth 100 terrorist lives is not worth the life of a single innocent Nigerian. So the government deployed intelligence. When you look, and I think this day made a very detailed explainer about it. And when you study it, you will see that it was straight from an action-packed thriller. Using intelligence, they intercepted the communications between these terrorists and their families. You'll be shocked. The terrorists have loved ones too. It will surprise you that terrorists who have kidnapped children aged 2 to 16, people's children, also have children they care for. I am shocked, because the movies I am familiar with, those that take on to the lives of crime, that develop a career on terrorism, they usually depart themselves from any emotional attachment that can draw them back, you know, into humane situations. But these ones have families, they have loved ones. They have people that call them daddy, that call them baby, that call them husbands, that call them child. The government intercepted communication between them and their families. And before you know it, our security forces have rounded up their families. And then they were communicated to. I believe it was a video communication saying, look, your wife just put to bed. It's not just the wife you want, even this newborn, which I suspect you are going to name Yusuf, you will not see him anymore. And then some of them are newly married. So they might not even have consummated the marriage yet. You are taking your wife away. According to the iconic philosopher, Thai currency, he said with a laughing will, you cure madness with insanity. Shakespeare says, you do not recite poetry to a fellow who is not a poet. When you see a warrior, draw your sword. Correct? Look, we have your families here. I know it is unexpected. You never expected it. Your families will go for it. For each of the victims you intend to harm, these ones too will go. I never would have suspected that kidnappers to have emotions and human feelings. Some of them began to cry. And then say, okay, then there's mellowed, knowing the government was not joking. So while they were still contemplating on either to leave their victims and escape, or either to act upon their threats, the government surrounded the forests. And then there was the government had them where they wanted, because they didn't even give them the chance to use the victims as human shield. They caught them stranded. They caught them unprepared. They caught them unguarded. About 2 or 3 of those people fell that night. And we rescued our citizens, the children, especially the teachers. We got them off. Unfortunately, in that Go battle, we lost one of our brave soldiers, Lieutenant Felix Isaac. He got hit and then he succumbed to his injuries. Now, I said I was traumatized when those children were abducted. But my trauma at that time was not as grave as the reaction of a section of our population. You see, I got to realize that we share this nation, quite unfortunately, with online bandits. You see, banditry is not limited to those that carry arms, physical arms, and then explore the forest. Even those of you with degrees, some of you multiple degrees, those of you with white-collar jobs, some of them are into IT. But your mindset, your mentality, the way you are wired, and the way your thought process, you have only lacked the opportunity to carry gun. You are not anything better than the bandits in the jungle. You know, there were some that were looking at the pictures and said, Kai, these children are looking well fed. You sure say this kidnap was real? Kai, this teacher, the principal that is, this one she could even speak this loudly. Somebody was even giving a reference that there's this guy on Twitter. He's an obedient, of course, Dixon. He happens to have a friend amongst whatever conversation he has a friend. He almost confessed that one of his friends, who is a kidnapper, has told him kidnapped victims don't look like that. Now, this is what the public do not know. That why the victims were in their custody, in captivity, the opposition, particularly, I want to suspect this coven, which Professor Shoyinka referred to as Bajue, nattering nitwits. They're paid influencers. You'll be shocked. You will realize that many of them set up ring lights, camera put upon face, fully made up. You will expect that those that want to make videos about something as agonizing as kidnap would appear sober. They were fully made up, as though they were wedding guests, fully made up. And then they began to choreograph tears and dramatize pains. Now, when they released these children, none of them, not one, Bam Bam, AY, Nast Boy, all of them that appear to be crying more than the bereaved, they want to pretend to us that they love the children more than the rest of us. None of them has come out to say, finally, the reason for which I cried, the children are out. They are awfully quiet, and their silence is louder than their tears, because we could actually pick the intention behind the videos they made the last time. They were paid heavily, so I'm telling you so. So it was shameful, because the agenda was, as you know, the longer these children spend in captivity, it becomes a political tool, political advantage for them. You know, when you do not have candidates, of substance, you begin to manufacture misfortune as your currency of popularity. You understand? And then some of them, but amongst all of them, as unfortunate as they are, the most unfortunate of them is the governor of your state. Very unfortunate governor. In Yorubas, we apologize. We apologize. We apologize to the rest of the country. We usually elect more reasonable and rational leaders. We committed a blunder with Sheyi, and it is one we are likely to correct in subsequent elections. You know, he didn't know. He wasn't carried along, because federal government suspects. They have, with intelligence, you can always have an idea of which of the political actors are actually sympathetic to this kidnap situation. So, not knowing that there have been a lot of efforts in recovering them, he went on TV to say, look, I declared for presidency in the morning, the children were abducted in the evening, suggesting that it was political, that the federal government was playing a script to frustrate his political ambition. This is a man that cannot win his family house. You cannot win your family. You cannot win your family house. So we are not kidnapping because Peter Obi declared. Peter Obi at least that can boast of his zone. We are not kidnapping because Atiku declared. Atiku at least can boast of his states. You that will not win your local government, you will be the reason we will impact or inflict terror upon Yoruba state or Yoruba land. So for a chief security officer, the father of that state, that was not only reckless, it was suggestive of the state of his mind. And we don't want to speak further because he enjoys immunity. Ordinarily, if that were an ordinary citizen, we have to call him in to tell us what he knows. You know, you do not play politics with the lives of citizens. The blood of any Nigerian is worth more than your fruitless ambition. And that was unfair on the people. 2 teachers were lost amongst these victims, correct? What was that also staged? You saw how emaciated, how frail, how fragile, how distraught those victims were upon release. Was that also staged? Our soldier who got unfortunately hit in the process and lost his life, paid the ultimate sacrifice. Was that also staged? Wayamkuru wayamkuru hala, wala ukiru al mukirin. The Quran says the plan, they conspire, the plots, the scheme. But Allah is the ultimate planners. Our children will not be collateral for our political ambitions. No. You all will lose. Because posterity will justify the just. Thank you.